Shalom family, shalom. I'm coming to you guys today with another video. I told you guys that I would be dropping a few videos that I had a lot to talk about to catch up with. The video that I'm about to do is not even the video I was meant to do, but it's the video we're going to do. So I was reading in the first book of Adam and Eve today, and I read this, the 13th apparition of Satan to trick Adam into marrying Eve. And I said, what? Wait a minute. What? Trick Adam into marrying Eve? Why would Satan have to trick Adam into marrying Eve? So I started reading this and it all made sense. So we're going to talk about this today. So let's start with this. To say, after this, Satan, the hater of all good, took the form of an angel, and with him two others, so that they looked like the three angels who had brought to Adam gold, incense, and myrrh. They passed before Adam and Eve while they were under the tree and greeted Adam and Eve with fair words that were full of deceit. But when Adam and Eve saw their pleasant expression and heard their sweet speech, Adam rose, welcomed them, and brought them to Eve, and they remained all together. Adam's heart, the while, being glad because he thought concerning them that they were the same angels who had brought him gold, incense, and myrrh, because when they came to Adam the first time, there came over him from them. I'm sorry, let me read that again, y'all. Because when they came to Adam the first time, there came over him from them peace and joy through their bringing him good tokens. So Adam thought that they had a second time to give him other tokens for him to rejoice therewith, for he did not know it was Satan. Therefore, he received them with joy and consorted with them. Then Satan, the tallest of them, said, Rejoice, O Adam, and be glad. Look, God has sent us to tell you something. And Adam said, What is it? Then Satan answered, It is a simple thing. Yet it is the word of God. Will you accept it from us and do it? But if you will not accept it, we will return of God and tell him that you would not receive his word. And Satan said again to Adam, Don't be afraid and don't tremble. Don't you know us? But Adam said, I do not know you. Then Satan said to him, I am the angel that brought you gold and took it to the cave. This other angel is the one that brought you incense, and that third angel is the one who brought you myrrh when you were on top of the mountain, and he carried you to the cave. But as the other angels are fellows who bear you to the cave, God has not sent them with us this time. For he said to us, You will be enough. So when Adam heard these words, he believed them and said to these angels, Speak the word of God that I may receive it. And Satan said to him, Swear and promise me that you will receive it. Then Adam said, I do not know how to swear and promise. And Satan said to him, Hold out your hand and put it inside my hand. Then Adam held out his hand and put it into Satan's hand. When Satan said to him, Say now, so true as God is living, rational and speaking, who raised the stars in heaven and established the dry ground on the waters, and has created me out of the four elements and out of the dust of the earth, I will not break my promise nor renounce my word. And Adam swore this. And Satan said to him, Look, it is now some time since you came out of the garden, and you know neither wickedness nor evil. But now God says to you to take Eve, who came out of your side, and to marry her, so that she will bear you children, to comfort you, and to drive from you trouble and sorrow. Now this thing is not difficult, neither is there any scandal in it to you. And then they go on to say, But when Adam heard these words from Satan, he sorrowed much because of his oath and of his promise, and said, shall I commit adultery with my flesh and my bones, and shall I sin against myself for God to destroy me and to blot me out from off the face of the earth? Now, when I read that, I was confused. I was like, what? But when Adam heard these words from Satan, he sorrowed much because of his oath and of his promise, and said, shall I commit adultery with my flesh and my bones, and shall I sin against myself for God to destroy me and blot me out from off the face of the earth? Let's look up adultery really quick, because I just want to see something. So adultery is when you have sex with somebody that's already married, and that's not what I got from this. So let me see something. Okay, so fornication is what it should say, and that's what I was thinking. Not adultery, fornication. So Adam said, shall I commit fornication with my flesh and my bones, and shall I sin against myself for God to destroy me and to blot me out from off the face of the earth? What is Adam talking about? I'm sitting here, I was confused. I thought Adam and Eve was wife and married and all of this stuff. But then it dawned on me that Adam and Eve was not a husband and wife. They simply translated it as wife and husband in Genesis when it was talking about them, but it should have just been translated as man and woman or girl and boy, male and female. That's what it should have been translated as, male and female. Adam and Eve was twins. They were sister and brother, and this is why I say, call wisdom thy sister and understanding thy kinswoman. They was sister and brother. Okay, when you look up the word bone of my bone, let's see, I had it pulled up. So bone of my bone, bone, substance. So substance is spirit, which we always said that Eve is the spirit. Substance, self, body, bone, bone of my bones, itself, limb, pain, same, strength, very, very same. They were the very same. They were identical twins. Body, bone, life, self, same, strength, a bone, extension figuratively, the substance, self, same, body, self, same. Okay. To be vast, mighty, numerous, so to be double. So when we look at the word twins, to be double, bear twins, double, coupled together, to be complete. Make twine, figuratively duplicate or arc jointed, coupled together. Twinned. Adam and Eve was twins. To be complete. The word for bride in Hebrew means to make complete, to make perfect, or to make whole. Let's just see. Okay, there it is. I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't click the next one. I'm making myself look crazy. To complete or perfect. To complete, perfect, make perfect, primitive root to complete or make perfect. So the word bride comes from the verb kalal, which means to complete or to make perfect, which is the same word for twin. So Adam and Eve was brothers and sister because they were angels, and that they is sons and daughters of God. So they were sister and brother. And that's the only thing that makes sense, because Jesus said angels neither marry nor are given in marriage in the resurrection. And I never understood that. Okay, so it says, since when at first I ate of the tree, he drove me out of the garden into the strange land and deprived me of my bright nature. And I'm going to say, she drove me out of the garden into the strange land and deprived me of my bright nature and brought death over me. If then I should do this, she will cut off my life from the earth, and she will cast me into hell and will plague me there a long time. But God never spoke the words that you have said, and you are not God's angels, and you weren't sent from her, but you are the devils that have come to me under false appearance of angels. Away from me, you cursed of God. Now, I want to just talk about the garden real quick. So they was in the garden, they ate from the tree, right? They grew old. Okay. So we always say that sleep is the cousin of death. God said that you shall surely die, meaning you shall surely fall asleep, to be slack or languid, or to grow old. Figuratively, to die. Also to grow old, stale, or inveterate. Inveterate. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But to grow old. So when they ate from the tree, they grow old. What? You gain knowledge as you get older. You see how Adam said, I don't know what a promise or a such and such is. I don't know what a promise is. That's what he said. And it'd be crazy, like, that make me think of, like, children. Like, what if you go back to, like, a child when you become an angel or something like that, which is why you don't marry or nothing like that. You just have brothers and sisters. And why Jesus was talking about whoever do something to the little children. It's like having a thing tied around their neck and jumping into the lake or something like that. That's something to think about, but I don't know. So, which could be why they always depict Jesus as a child, Mary and baby Jesus. You know what? That's something to think about, but let's continue. Then those devils fled from before Adam, and he and Eve got up and returned to the cave of treasures and went into it. Then Adam said to Eve, if you saw what I did, don't tell anyone, for I sinned against God in swearing by her great name, and I have placed my hand another time into that of Satan. Eve then held her peace as Adam told her. Then Adam got up and spread his hands before God, beseeching and entreating her with tears to forgive him what he had done. And Adam remained thus standing and praying 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate nor drank until he dropped down on the ground from hunger and thirst. Then God sent his words to Adam, who raised him up from where he lay and said to him, O Adam, Why have you sworn by my name? And why have you made agreement with Satan another time? But Adam cried and said, "O God, forgive me, for I did this unwittingly, believing they were God's angels." And God forgave Adam, saying to him, "Beware of Satan." And she withdrew her word from Adam. Then Adam's heart was comforted, and he took Eve, and they went out of the cave to prepare some food for their bodies. But from that day, Adam struggled in his mind about his marrying Eve. After that, if he was to do it, afraid that if he was to do it, God would be angry with him. Then Adam and Eve went to the river of water and sat on the bank as people do when they enjoy themselves. But Satan was jealous of them and planned to destroy them. Then Satan and 10 from his host transformed themselves into maidens, unlike any others in the whole world, for grace. They came up out of the river in presence of Adam and Eve, and they said among themselves, "Come, we will look at the faces of Adam and Eve, who are the men on earth. How beautiful they are, and how different is their look from our own faces." Then they came to Adam and Eve and greeted them and stood wondering at them. Adam and Eve looked at them also, and wondered at their beauty and said, "Is there then under us another world and with such beautiful creatures as these in it?" And those maidens said to Adam and Eve, "Yes, indeed, we are an abundant creation." Then Adam said to them, "But how do you multiply?" And they answered him, "We have husbands who have married us, and we bear them children who grow up, and who in their turn marry and are married, and also bear children, and thus we increase. And if so be, O Adam, you will not believe us, we will show you our hands and our children." Then they shouted over the river as if to call their husbands and their children who came up from the river, men and children. And every man came to his wife, his children being with him. But when Adam and Eve saw them, they stood dumb and wondered at them. Then they said to Adam and Eve, "See all our husbands and our children. You should marry Eve, as we have married our husbands, so that you will have children as we have." This was a device of Satan to deceive Adam. Satan also thought within himself, God at first commanded Adam concerning the fruit of the tree, saying to him, "Eat not of it, else of death you shall die." But Adam ate of it, and yet God did not kill him. He only decreed on him death and plagues and trials until the day he shall come out of his body. So it seemed like they had got a body. They was angels at first. They had got a body, because if you read this is what am I reading? The first book of Adam and Eve. It talk about how they developed stomach organs like they didn't have them at first. They wasn't eating at first. They did a 42-day fast. So, and they had been not eating, because remember they was in the garden. So, so whatever happened, it wasn't about physically eating. Nothing. It was knowledge that they have received. I'm trying to get real deep into that to just really understand exactly what that tree, we know in context clues tell us what it was. It say, we're going to read this. Obviously, it led to them having bodies. And then we're going to read this. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But another word for sin is body. So when they say the woman brought sin into the world, the woman brought bodies into the world, we know that the body or the new vessels come through the woman. So it's a lot, but I'm not going to talk about, that's going to be another video. So, so it seemed like they was angels. Now, remember it say that their eyes were open and they were naked. Right? I think I had a word pulled up for that too. But when they say naked, what I think it means is a body. What do we call our body? when we don't have no clothes on. We just call it naked. So when Adam and Eve, it say their eyes were open, they knew that they were naked. They was looking at their bodies like, you know what I'm saying? They was naked. It was a naked body. You know what I'm saying? Like, like what the heck? What is this thing on me? And the scripture say, "Ye are all gods," but that word God is Elohim, which can also mean angels. Ye are all angels. Angels stuck in bodies. Okay. It was naked or something, but I explained it to y'all. A naked body. Okay, that's as best as I can explain it to you. And they knew that they were naked. Looking at a naked body when before they was like light or something like that. So now then, if I deceive him to do this thing and to marry Eve without God's permission, God will kill him then. Therefore, Satan worked this apparition before Adam and Eve because he sought to kill him and to make him disappear from off the face of the earth. And then keep in mind that God, to me, I always say God in Genesis is like a mother who had children, whose children was children. You told your children, listen, don't do this, don't do that. And they did it anyway, and they had to reap the consequences of their actions. You know what I mean? Think about if you had a teenager and they got out here and learned about sex and you told them don't go eating from the tree and they did it anyway, and then they had babies and stuff. They had to go out here on their own into the world. They had to leave the garden. They had to leave the net. That's just always how I look at Genesis when it's saying God created. A woman has children, male and female. She births them. So God created male and female, But it's just this, I don't think this is not talking about literally the only beings and stuff on the planet or whatever. So Adam and Eve was sister and brother. Okay, so where was we? Therefore, Satan worked this apparition before Adam and Eve because he sought to kill him and to make him disappear from off the face of the earth. Meanwhile, the fire of sin came over Adam, and he thought of committing sin, but he restrained himself, fearing that if he followed this advice of Satan, God will put him to death. Then Adam and Eve got up and prayed to God while Satan and his hosts went down into the river in presence of Adam and Eve to let them see that they were going back to their own world. Then Adam and Eve went back to the cave of treasures as they usually did about evening time, and they both got up and prayed to God that night. Adam remained standing in prayer, yet not knowing how to pray, by reason of thoughts in his heart regarding his marrying Eve, and he continued so until morning. And when light came up, Adam said to Eve, "Get up, let us go below the mountain where they brought us gold, and let us ask the Lord concerning this matter." Then Eve said, "What is this matter, O Adam?" And he answered her, "That I may request the Lord to inform me about marrying you, for I will not do it without her permission, or else she will make us perish, you and me. For those devils have set my heart on fire with thoughts of what they showed us in their sinful apparitions." Then Eve said to Adam, "Why need we go below the mountain? Let us rather stand up and pray in our cave to God to let us know whether this counsel is good or not." Then Adam rose up in prayer and said, "O God, you know that we transgressed against you. And from the moment we transgressed, we were stripped of our bright nature, and our body became brutish, requiring food and drink, and with animal desires. Command us, O God, not to give way to them without your permission, for fear that you will turn us into nothing. Because if you do not give us permission, we shall be overpowered and follow that advice of Satan, and you will again make us perish. If not, then take our souls from us. Let us be rid of this animal lust. And if you give us no order respecting this thing, then sever Eve from me and me from her, and place us each far away from each other." So it say, and they was twins. It just remind me of Simon's twins. And I'm sorry, I just got to say this. God took Adam's side. You know how Simon's twins be on each other sometimes, and they got to cut them apart. Adam and Eve was twins, sister and brother. Then again, O God, if you separate us from each other, the devils will deceive us with their apparitions that resemble us and destroy our hearts and defile our thoughts toward each other. Yet, if it is not each of us towards the other, it will at all events be through their appearance when the devils come to us in our likeness. Here Adam ended his prayer. Then God considered the words of Adam, that they were true, and that he could long await his order respecting the counsel of Satan. And God approved Adam in what he had thought concerning this. And in the prayer he had offered in his presence, and the word of God came to Adam and said to him, O Adam, only if you had this caution at first, before you came out of the garden into this land. After that, God sent her angel who brought gold, and the angel who had brought incense, and the angel who had brought myrrh to Adam, that they should inform him respecting his marriage to Eve. Then those angels said to Adam, take the gold and give it to Eve as a wedding gift. I need to make this bigger. That's my problem. Eyes over here hurt. And promise to marry her. Then give her some incense and myrrh as a present. And be you and she, one flesh. Adam obeyed the angels and took the gold and put it into Eve's bosom in her garment, and promised to marry her with his hand. Then the angels commanded Adam and Eve to get up and pray 40 days and 40 nights. When that was done, then Adam was to have sexual intercourse with his wife, for then this would be an act pure and undefiled, so that he would have children who would multiply and replenish the face of the earth. Then both Adam and Eve received the words of the angels, and the angels departed from them. Then Adam and Eve began to fast and pray until the end of the 40 days, and they had sexual intercourse as the angels had told them. And from the time Adam left the garden until he wedded Eve were 223 days. That is 7 months and 13 days. Thus was Satan's war with Adam defeated. So they was not supposed to marry. And that made me understand why Jesus said in the resurrection, angels do not marry. But it reminded me of the twin flame situation. It's not a marriage, but it's like a twin flame. The flames being the light, and the twins. They was twins. So they make me think of a scripture. They give birth to they all give birth to twins or something the scriptures say. I don't know where it is, but I'm not going to get sidetracked. That can be in another video. But for in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, for are as the angels of God in heaven. They go back to being angels. So there is no marriage, but you still have like your twin flame. So because Adam and Eve was still brother and sister, they were still together. And when they say, and Adam, see, they put in Adam knew his wife and they were not ashamed. So that's why I was thinking they had sex. It shouldn't have been wife right there. It said the male knew the female and they were not ashamed. They had met each other. And, that's another book we can read at another time. But so I want to get what Paul said about this, because that made me understand what Paul said about this when he was talking about marriage, 1 Corinthians 7. Now, concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, is it good for a man not to touch a woman? Nevertheless, is it good for a man not to touch a woman? Pay attention. Because what Paul is telling us is man is not supposed to touch women. We're not supposed to be having sex. But he say it's better to marry than to burn. So if you can't control yourself, then marry and be with one person. That's what Paul is saying. But he said it's better to not touch a woman. Is it good for a man not to touch a woman? Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man, it is good. Now concerning the things of where you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Do y'all hear this? Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife have not power over her own body, but the husband, and likewise also the husband have not power over his own body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. But I speak this by permission, and not of commandment. For I would that all men were even as I myself. And I believe Paul was a eunuch, so we're going to have to get real deep into what that means. And remember I told y'all in the video, I said the 144,000 might be eunuchs because the scripture say that they're going to get the highest honor or something. But I don't want to get sidetracked. But every man, for I would that all men were even as I myself. But every man that have his power, but every man have his proper gift of God, one after this manner, and another after that. This make me think of why man, the priests, like the Gali priests, they would cut their penis off and they worship the goddess. It make me think that maybe they did that because they couldn't control their urges to sleep with women. When maybe they understood that the Bible say that they're not supposed to. This was deep when I was reading this, y'all. This was deep, okay? For I would that all men were even as myself, but every man have his proper gift of God, one after this manner, and another after that. So some men gonna marry, some not. I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide, even as I. The unmarried and widows, he's saying don't get married. But if they cannot contain, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn. And to the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord, let not the wife depart from her husband. And if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. But to the rest speak I, not the Lord. If any brother have a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. And the woman which have a husband that believeth not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they holy. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases. Pay attention to the wording, a brother and a sister. But God hath called us to peace. For what knowest thou, O wife, whether thou shalt save thy husband? Or how knowest thou, O man, whether thou shalt save thy wife? But as God hath distributed to every man, as the Lord hath called every one, so let him walk. And so ordain I in all churches. Is any man called being circumcised? Let him not be uncircumcised. Is any called in uncircumcision? Let him not be circumcised. Now, one of the words for marriage, I believe I looked up today, and I believe it says circumcised. So circumcision is another word for married, I believe. And when you talk about circumcision, this is the Galley priest again who was cutting their penis off, because that's really what circumcision really, when you really get down into it, that's what it was. So circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing but the keeping of the commandments of God. Let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. Art thou called being a servant? Care not for it. But if thou mayest be made free, use it rather. For he that is called in the Lord, being a servant, is the Lord's free man. Likewise also he that is called being free is Christ's servant. Ye are bought with a price. Be not ye the servants of man. Talking about women. You were bought with a price, because we know back in is it Jeremiah? It say you shall be redeemed, and not with money. So, but not with, be not servants of men. Brethren, let every man wherein he is called therein abide with God. Now concerning virgins, listen to this. Now concerning virgins, I have no commandment of the Lord. Yet I give my judgment as one that have obtained mercy of the Lord to be faithful. I suppose, therefore, that this is good for the present distress. I say that it is good for a man so to be. Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loosed. Art thou loosed from a wife? Seek not a wife. But, and if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. And if a virgin marry, she have not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh, but I spare you. I think women and men, we brothers and sisters, is crazy. What if we was never meant to design to be together? But yeah, just supposed to be brothers and sisters. Because listen to what it say. But, and if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. And if a virgin marry, she have not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh. Why? Because the scripture said your enemies shall be those of your own household. Because we're going to talk about it. Paul said when women marry, it's like slavery. Okay, so listen. But, and if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. And if a virgin marry, she have not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh, but I spare you. But this I say, brethren, the time is short. It remaineth that both they that have wives be as they that had none, and they that weep as though they wept not, and they that rejoice as though they rejoice not, and they that buy as they that possess not, and they that use this world as not abusing it. For the fashion of this world passeth away. But I would have you without carefulness. He that is unmarried careth for the things that belong to the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But he that is married careth for the things that are of the world, and how he may please his wife. There is a difference also between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman careth for the things of the Lord, that she may be holy both in body and spirit. But she that is married careth for the things of the world, how she may please her husband. And this I speak for your own profit, not that I may cast a snare upon you, but for that which is comely, and that ye may attend upon the Lord without distraction. But if any man think that he behaveth himself uncomely toward his virgin, if she passes the flower of her age, and need so require, let him do what he will. He sinneth not, let them marry. Nevertheless, he that standeth steadfast in his heart, having no necessity, but have power over his own will, and have so decreed in his heart that he will keep his virgin, doeth well. So it say, nevertheless, he that standeth steadfast in his heart, having no necessity, but hath power over his own will, and hath so decreed in his heart that he will keep his virgin, doeth well. So then, he that giveth her in marriage doeth well, but he that giveth her not in marriage doeth better. He that giveth her not in marriage doeth better. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth, but if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. But she is happier if she so abide after my judgment. It say, but she is happier if she so abide after my judgment. And I think also that I have the Spirit of God. Oh my God, did y'all hear what Paul said? Now, let's get to this other chapter. My mind is everywhere. I can't even think. What did Paul say? What's the next thing that I want to pull up? Oh, where he said, a woman is bound by the law so long as she liveth. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law have dominion over a man as long as he liveth. For the woman which hath a husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. See, the law of her husband. See, I always say the law to man because that's what it, man-made laws. Okay, commandments of man. The Spirit have made you free. That's what Paul was just talking about when he just said that. For I speak to them that know the law, that the law is not for the righteous, but for the unrighteous. How that the law have dominion over a man as long as he liveth. For the woman which have a husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law. So that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Wherefore, my brethren, ye are also become dead to the law by the body of Christ, that ye should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto God. For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sin, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. So did y'all just hear what Paul said? So it say, for the woman which have a husband is bound by the law to her husband, but we know that it say the Spirit has made me free from the law. From the law of sin and death. Okay. So that was a lot. So family, that was a lot to take in. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Am I misinterpreting that? Let's say a man who keep his twin a virgin is better off. It is good that a man should not touch a woman. Did y'all hear all of this? Men don't want to hear that. Ooh, Lord, they don't want to hear that. Shoot, I ain't want to hear that. I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing. Lord. Shalom, family. Tell me what y'all think about this. Till we meet again.